A Link to the Past really showed me that there could be so much more to video games. And I remember, I remember first finding the Master Sword and in the forest, and thinking like the game was over, and then having my mind blown at like the rest of the game that followed.
Jamming, yeah, jamming. I hope you like a jamming too. Welcome to Jammencast, a podcast dedicated to celebrating video games and delivering video game news and interviews with people involved in the video game industry. This week we have What's News, What's Jammin', and an interview with Twitch streamer CaviPlays. He's a retired competitive Call of Duty 1 and 2 player. He streams Apex Legends, and he has a beer of the day to tell viewers about for anyone who stops by his channel. So stay tuned and let's go. What's news, everyone? Welcome to another Jammencast segment. We're going to be talking about all the video game news and knowledge that went on this week. I'm going to start off with Ninja leaving Twitch has done little to Fortnite viewership. According to the Esports Observer, they released an article. Outside the viewership that the World Cup provided toward the end of July, Fortnite viewership overall has been down significantly from 2018. Without Ninja around for the past couple of weeks, viewership of Fortnite has been about the same as it was in the month or so prior to his move. So his friends still on Twitch have seen a boost in viewership, Tim the Tapman and some others, but it hasn't changed the overall viewership of the game on the Twitch platform. So even though he left, it was a big move for Mixer. Obviously, Mixer got a bunch of new people. I'm sure there's a bunch of new people streaming on the website now. There's a bunch of new people watching the website now. But for Twitch itself, Twitch has not suffered considerably from Ninja leaving. Fortnite viewership has been down since 2018, with really only the World Cup providing a big boost in Fortnite viewership. But Ninja leaving Twitch has not put a big dampener on Fortnite viewership on the Twitch platform. In fact, his friends have benefited from his removal because the people that liked him and liked his friends now only watch his friends as opposed to maybe not moving to Mixer. Twitch has not seen that big a change. That's just all. I thought that was interesting, and you guys would like that. Kotaku had a article about GameStop. So GameStop has laid off over 100 employees at its corporate headquarters in Grapevine, Texas, and at other offices, including its subsidiary Game Informer magazine in Minnesota, where nearly half of the editorial staff lost their jobs in a surprise cut. So they said, as part of the previously announced GameStop reboot initiative to transform our business for the future and improve our financial performance, we can confirm a workforce reduction was implemented, impacting more than 120 corporate staff positions, representing approximately 14% of our total associate base at our company headquarters, as well as at some other offices. While these changes are difficult, they were necessary to reduce costs and better align the organization with our efforts to optimize the business to meet our future objectives and success factors. We recognize that this is a difficult day for our company, and particularly for those associates impacted. We appreciate their dedication and service to GameStop and are committed to supporting them during this time of transition. They're committed to supporting their employees that they terminated. GameStop, don't even, it's just BS. It's just a bunch of corporate BS. They had to fire people. They're losing money. The company is in the crapper. Their stock prices are down. People are not going to GameStop because you can buy digital stuff. GameStop is fighting to find relevancy in today's world. And so they're shifting things. They're getting rid of employees. They're cutting costs. They're trying to find ways. And it's all a bunch of PR. I get it, GameStop. You get it. We get it. Everyone, I think, understands what's going on, but they have their big PR stuff going on. So GameStop is cutting a ton of employees from their corporate offices, and they're from their Game Informer magazine, which is just basically a big GameStop ad anyway. It's saying, "Hey, get all these games that are coming out at GameStop," and it's just "Hey, check out these games that are coming out." So yeah. Let's talk about Classic WoW, because that's literally everything left in the What's News segment today. There's new PvP servers for America opening. and this is happening constantly. They've constantly had to keep these new PvP servers coming out because the demand for the game, these servers keep hitting full within a couple days. Everyone's transferring, trying to get off Herod, trying to get off the Crazy Realm. So Blemux, I don't even know how to say that name, is a PvP server that's opening up for the Americas. It's a Pacific time zone server. Scarum is another Eastern time zone server opening up for PvP. And the new servers for Germany, there's Razorven PvE, Venoxis PvP, and there's new servers for everyone opening up constantly because, honestly, Blizzard needs to open more because they're expecting hour-long queue times, multiple hour-long queue times on the most popular servers. And now I want to get to the meat of today's What's News. And I know I'm sprinting through all the news. I know I sprinted through all that, and I'm going right to WoW Classic AMA. This is the fat, big, meaty chunk of news that happened this week for me that I thought was really awesome. And you guys, I think you're going to enjoy this. If you like WoW Classic, if you like Jamencast, you'll probably enjoy this. So it was a huge AMA on Reddit. WoW Classic developers were there, and it was really just quite something. So Altruist WoW, the executive producer, we had user Kromshi, the senior game producer, we had a lead software engineer, Pazorax, we had a senior software engineer, Ogrons. Pazorax was the lead software engineer, Ogrons is the senior software engineer, Zoid WoW, the principal software engineer, Agrin, the senior test lead, and then Kyvax, the community manager. All these people were here for the AMA answering questions for the community, and it was a great AMA. It was a lot of insightful information that we found from the classic World of Warcraft team. So the first question, and I'm not going to go through all of them because there's just way too many. If you need to check it out, check out the classic AMA on Reddit. Wowhead had a great recap from their live blog. I'm just going to go through quite a number of questions that I thought were interesting and came out with some really, really good information. So what are your plans for server reset days for Classic, they asked. And the answer was the raid reset points have been restored to their original 1.12 values. So from the raid lockout page on WoW Gamepedia, the raid lockout system has undergone a significant change, according to this patch, which was 1.9, I think. The new system will have all the instances reset at a certain server time, regardless of when you actually saved in the instance. The reset schedule is as follows, okay? Molten Core is resetting every 7 days during the weekly maintenance, which is going to be on Tuesdays for North America. Blackwing Lair every 7 days. Anixia's every 5 days. So you can do Anixia every 5 days. Zul'Gurub will be every 3 days, but of course won't be in Phase 1. Temple of Anchorage, which also won't be in Phase 1, is every 7 days. Ruins of Anchorage, the 20-man, will be every 3 days. So a lot of raids that are going to reset every 3 days, every 5 days. Anixia resetting every 5 is really interesting. You can do Anixia twice a week. And then moving on to the next question. What is the intended player cap for dungeons in Classic WoW? This is a good question because in the beta, it was max of 5 people in most dungeons. So they answered, you should be able to enter most lower level dungeons with up to 10 players, as was possible in original WoW 1.12. There are some dungeons that had specific caps by the end of original WoW. However, to be specific, all lower level dungeons available through Maraudon should have players capped at 10, with Blackrock Depths, Scholomance, Stratholme, and Diremaul being capped at 5 players. As was the case in original WoW 1.12, Blackrock Spire should also have a cap of 10 players. So that's cool. You could do RFC with 10 people, but that wouldn't be exactly efficient, right? You wouldn't get the right efficiency out of your experience because you would be dividing it up with 10 people, and it doesn't seem you're not going to get loot. It's kind of weird. I mean, I guess you could run with 10 people all the way to Maraudon. If you wanted to level as a group for 10 people, you could just keep leveling through dungeons with 10 people and just blitzing through dungeons. I mean, you could really tear some dungeons up. But I don't know. The next question I want to talk about is someone asked, what happens after Phase 6? So what happens after everything comes out? The very final phase of Classic WoW. And they responded, we've done most of the hard work by bringing back 1.12, so progressing to Burning Crusade would be a lot easier for us. Our plan is to identify everything we need to do should we ever decide to go this route. We want to be sensitive to the desires of our players. Some may want to BC and some may not. We'll be following the Classic community closely to help determine what our next step should be. And I feel personally like people are jumping the gun on the Burning Crusade train. The question, what happens after Phase 6, seems to dismiss Classic. It's nice to know that there are plans after Classic, but it also diminishes what the developers have done for Classic. People are already asking, what's next? What comes next? When we haven't even started Phase 1. People are excited about Classic, and that is fantastic. But also just enjoy Classic first and then see what comes after. When we get to Phase 5, maybe Phase 4, then start asking, hey, what happens after Phase 6? But we're not even in Phase 1 yet. Just relax, people. Relax and enjoy Classic WoW for what we are getting, okay? So what happens after Phase 6? It's a good question. It's important. But relax. Wait. Think about what's coming next, what's coming now, okay? And then we can think about what's coming next once we get into it. I've asked people, what are you expecting Burning Crusade? Are you excited about Burning Crusade? I've asked them in interviews before, and I think even that, me asking them, I felt like, it's a little too much. We don't need to talk about that yet. That's too far. So the next question that someone asked, and this is one of those more technical questions, is I think there's generally some misunderstanding within the community and how and why the layering technique works in World of Warcraft Classic. So they clarified. A big clarification here. Sorry for it's going to be a lot of information here. I'm just going to go through it. So they said, I'm so glad you asked this question. First, we're absolutely committed to reducing to 1 layer per realm before our second content phase goes live. And the sooner we can get there, the better. The reason we can't do that initially is that on launch day, everybody will be clustered in the starting zones. And having players so close together causes an exponential drain on server resources. In fact, the same number of players cause more server problems crammed into Northshire than they do spread across all of Elwynn Forest. We expect that even after the first couple of days, we'll need fewer layers than we need for the initial hours of launch, and our stress tests have confirmed that expectation. A related concern that was raised during our pre-launch test was that capital cities felt empty. But that only occurred because we left the pre-launch test running 2 days past its original end date, and we didn't reduce the number of layers at all during the test. During our launch week, as the players spread out across the world, we'll monitor activity and reduce layers as necessary so that the world continues to feel full. Some players have suggested using sharding in low-level zones to address launch demand, both because we talked about that at BlizzCon and because it's what they're used to from our modern expansions. Unfortunately, while modern WoW has content designed to work with sharding, WoW Classic does not. The most obvious example of incompatible content is Rexar's famously long patrol path, but there are lots of other examples throughout WoW Classic. Since we want all that content to work as it was originally designed, we've made sure that every layer is a copy of the entire world. So you can kite Anachronos all the way to Orgrimmar, and you can ride the boat from Ratchet to Booty Bay with the same people alongside you the whole way. So, one thing I want to ask about that, they just said from Ratchet to Booty Bay. Does that mean that Kalimdor and the Eastern Kingdoms are all on their own layer together? Is that one layer for both continents? Or is that a layer for each continent individually? So you switch from your layer from Ratchet to Booty Bay. If you're not in a party with someone and you go to the next continent, do you see the same people on your boat when you get to Eastern Kingdoms from Ratchet? It sounds like that's what they just said, but I don't know. We'll find out. And then we can start getting into the paid services questions. Some of the paid services going on with World of Warcraft Classic. People are worried about that. Worried about, are we going to get a mount store? Are we going to get character boosts? A lot of that. So here's the questions. Will you offer free realm transfers if servers get way overpopulated after launch? So first off, free realm transfers. And they said, this is definitely one of the options we are considering. But for now, we are encouraging players to use the name reservation period to transfer their characters to lower population realms. And then someone said paid services, question mark. Are we going to get paid services? And they responded, we're considering integrating a character transfer service once players have reached higher levels. This was available in the original WoW. We'll look at the rules we imposed at that time, and we'll also discuss the implications of players moving to a new realm. We believe realm identity is an important aspect of Classic, so any guidelines around transfers should support this belief. And then someone asked about character boosts. They said character boosts are not in keeping with Classic. We don't want to break any hearts. And we aren't considering other services beyond character transfer at this time, which I think is great. That's good. I don't want to see character boosts. Of course, they said at this time. Does that mean they're going to think about it later? No, Blizzard, don't do anything like that. Yeah. Don't do that. Character boosts, don't do that. Don't do, server transfers are about the only thing I could think of that I would agree. I don't know what price point they're going to go with. If it's $60, I'd be pretty pissed. Yeah, lots of things to think about with the paid stuff, but I don't want them to monetize the game so much. I mean, the game's I'm gonna be subbing, all right? That's enough. Stop trying to charge me for more. Gates of AQ opening is the next question that someone asked, and I thought this was a very interesting question. So, are the resources and amount the same for the turn-in for AQ? Because when AQ originally came out in vanilla, nobody had any idea what resources were going to be used in order to open the gates. But now we know. We know exactly what items are going to be needed to open it, so people can stockpile ahead of time. So people are asking, are you going to change that? Are you going to fix that? Are you going to switch it so that people can't stockpile ahead of time and negate the importance of the event? Is the event going to be over in a couple hours because a couple guilds saved up all the stuff and they got it done? Boom, it's over. People that didn't log in for the hours when it came out are missing it. They completely missed the whole AQ event. And Blizzard responded, #no changes. In all seriousness, one of our core pillars is to recreate the original experiences as authentically as possible. This will extend to the required resources of the AQ War event. We realize there is nothing we can do to unwind the knowledge gained over the years. What we do have control over is ensuring that World of Warcraft Classic matches as closely as possible to the original 1.12 data. So they say they have no changes for this. If this changes how long it takes to open the gates and ruins the ability of a server to participate in the event, then it should be changed, I feel like. The no changes policy is there for the authentic experience. And if the event is over within a couple hours, it should be changed so that it's extended for a longer period of time. From commentators on Reddit, it seems like the numbers you need to stockpile are way more than a single server can hope for, and it actually won't be a change to the event too much. And this is based on the experience people have had with private servers. So it won't last as long as it did originally, because people didn't have any idea of how it worked. But it will take some time for the event to finish, and it won't be over in a few hours like some people are suggesting. So it's not as, terrible. It's not as skies falling as some people are saying. The server will continue. You will be able to participate no matter when you log in. If you don't log in for a couple weeks, that's your fault. And then some people were asking about spell batching. They asked a question about spell batching. It was, spell batching seems to be causing problems with AoE abilities, such as people being able to run over hunter traps, and if not going on off, or running through Mage's Blizzard spell and not getting hit or slowed by it, and many more AoE abilities. Are there any thoughts about lowering the spell batching delay, or another way to fix these issues? Question. And the response was, this is actually not related to spell batching. Traps and AoE abilities checks for the presence of targets during a heartbeat update. If the target moves through them between two heartbeat updates, they will not notice the target. This is how it was in the original 1.12. I was just listening to Countdown to Classic. It's another podcast that focuses solely on classic World of Warcraft, and he had Kevin Jordan on. Kevin is a World of Warcraft Classic designer. He streams on Twitch, but he was on the original team for Vanilla WoW back in the day, not the current Classic WoW team. Kevin explained that Hunter Traps and Interrupts spells had special code in them to make them more responsive. And is that different from what the dev team is saying here? So, since traps are on a heartbeat update, they won't be as responsive as Kevin Jordan seemed to imply in his interview. Is that going to be a problem? I'm just questions, right? Traps should be really responsive, I feel like. Maybe they're not. Maybe that's not how they worked originally. The classic WoW dev team is saying that that's not how they worked. Kevin Jordan seemed to imply that that's how they did work. They were very responsive. They had extra code added to make them more responsive. So the next question someone had was about skeletons. So they said, will the skeletons that appear when someone dies be the same as it was originally? Right now, they disappear after you die again. They used to stay longer than that. And so Blizzard responded, and this is something, again, it's like, who decides what's no changes and what's not? I guess Blizzard decides that. But again, they're like, we're so committed to the authentic experience, but then they change things because they don't. Anyway, here it is. While we understand that this was a flavorful part of original WoW and the earlier expansions, individual players leaving multiple player corpses and skeletons throughout the game world can lead to behaviors such as spelling out advertisements, hate speech, and other negative messages. As such, this will not be a part of WoW Classic. And I think that's really sucks. I think that's a bad decision. I don't like that decision. I get it. I understand why they're reasoning for it. But the going into Stranglethorn Vale and seeing just bodies everywhere, or going into the arena in Stranglethorn and seeing skeletons everywhere, that's crazy. That's terrifying. You're like, oh, wow, lots of people dying here. This is bad. To see them not allowing that, to make it only one corpse per body, per person, that's kind of sad. What's the next thing they talked about is, can you elaborate in any way on some of the expected queue lengths, preferably in length of time at launch? So Blizzard responded, they said, on the most popular servers, such as Herod and Shazra, we are currently estimating lengthy queue times up to several hours or more in certain instances. That is why we strongly encourage players to use the name reservation period to transfer their characters and their guilds to lower pop realms. And then someone asked, what was the hardest thing to recreate? And they responded, Hunters. Hunters were the hardest thing to recreate. They said they were one of the most complicated classes in vanilla, and we had to do a huge amount of work in restoring them. So that's all the questions I saw from the AMA that I thought you guys would like. I think the thing about the server times being super long, which I just skipped over and I jumped right into the Hunter being the hardest thing to recreate, is really important. If you're going to make... So this is the last podcast you're going to... If you're listening to it immediately, as soon as I release it this Saturday, Classic World of Warcraft launches this week. It's coming out. It's going to be here. So if you're looking to play, don't go on Herod, don't go on Shazra, which are the European and North American servers. Check out one of the lower pop realms, but I think they're all full now. It's like crazy. So Herod is expected to have several hours of queue times based on what they said during the AMA. So if you want to wait a couple hours to be able to play on launch, go on Herod. If not, try to find a different server. I don't know where I'm playing now. I thought I was going to go Faralina. I have no idea now, because if Faralina has queue times, that would suck. I don't want to have a queue. I just want to play. I got to find out where people are playing. Got to find out what's going on. We can talk about that in What's Jamming. That's more important to that, right? All right, guys, that's what's news. You hear it. You heard the news for the week. That's a pretty long segment. 20 minutes in, we got a whole what's news. I'm going to transfer it over now to myself. I'm going to go over to myself. What's jamming, man? Let's hear what's jamming. Let's talk about my week. Yo, what's jamming? Thanks, Jamin, for that great transition to me. Thank you very much. I take the baton and I'm going to continue running with it. This is the segment of this show where I get to talk about myself. I get to talk about my week. And that's really special to me because I am me. So thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Let's get into it, okay? So this week I had a really great time streaming. My Twitch stream, a lot happened this week with the Twitch stream. So I playing this game called Project Winter. And I've talked about it before on the podcast. It's a hidden role identity game. You have, 8 people playing together. 2 of those people are bad. They're traitors. You don't know who they are. And 6 people are working together to try to escape the winter cabin that you're locked in. You have to repower a power station. You have to activate a radio beacon. You have to actually call for rescue. And then you have to actually get to the rescue. And then the 2 traitors, pretending to be on your team for most of the game, then have to go and open trader crates. They have to go collect guns and weapons and get more powerful and get poison and sabotage things and throw out your equipment and try to stop you from actually doing anything, trying to help you. Anyway, I played this with Marco a couple times, and I've played with him. I'm going to continue playing with him. But one day I had a 7-hour stream. I didn't mean to. I just started playing around midnight, or like 11 p.m., and then I just kept playing. It was addictive. We played till like 5 in the morning, East Coast time. So I had this 7-hour stream that happened. It must have been like 6 a.m. But it's just a really fun game, and it's easy to get lost in. The next day I had a stream which blew my mind. It was one of those mind-blowing streams that I was like, what is happening? 53 people were watching me play Project Winter the other day. Because a foreign streamer with 17,000 viewers was playing Project Winter, and I was the only English stream on at the time, so that was incredible. So people seeing the game in the popular game section were hopping in to find out what the game was, and it was really awesome to have that many people. Just 53 people watching me at once was incredible. I was in shock. I didn't mean to, I felt like I was leeching a little bit, but people were coming in and asking me, and I got a bunch of followers from it. It was great. It was really, honestly, it was fantastic. So if you haven't checked out Project Winter, check that out. I'll be playing it more on stream. And if we do a stream, we can do stream if we have 8 people playing it, we can just do a stream game where everyone play together. So I did 2 more interviews this week. So I had this interview this week with CaviPlays, you'll hear in a bit. But I had 2 more interviews I did this week on stream. One of them on stream, one of them I didn't do on stream. Those will be out over the next couple of weeks. It's really fun to do these interviews, and doing them live is awesome. Getting to interact with chat and talk with people in chat when I'm doing the interviews, that's always great. And the last thing I want to talk about with What's Jamming, and I know this is a really short What's Jamming segment, but I got a very good interview with CaviPlays that you guys are going to want to listen to. I watched SFan TV the other day. SFan TV. He's SFan. I don't have to call him SFan TV. That's his Twitch handle. But he had this developer on, and it was last night for me, but it was on the 21st of August. He had the developer on the add-on Classic LFG on his stream for this World of Warcraft Classic add-on. And the initial reaction to this add-on is pretty negative, right? If you put LFG in Classic, everyone's going to be pretty mad. No one wants that. So the SFan gave this guy, this developer, Sue, I think his name, he's a German, he said, give him a chance to explain himself. Explain this add-on, this LFG add-on that he created. So the problem is people don't want anything to separate the player base, right? You don't want an add-on that you have to, is an LFG add-on. Only people using the add-on can find each other. So if you have the add-on, then you can find each other. People don't want a required add-on to experience the game in a simpler fashion. But luckily, the add-on doesn't split the player base. It does have an automated messaging system that allows you to, if you form a group, it will put messages out to the world so that even people without the add-on can join your group. It does monitor channels globally through other people running the add-on, and I don't like that. I don't like the fact that someone in Goldshire or whatever, someone in Westfall can update you without you paying any attention to Westfall chat that there is someone in Westfall that needs a group. I feel like should go to, if you want to go to Do Dead Minds, go to Westfall. Go over there and try. I mean, you can use the global LFG channel, but also just go to Westfall or go to Trade Chat and hey guys, trying to run Dead Minds. Get anyone there? I also don't like the automated message spamming. I don't like the idea that a message will be spammed automatically. And the developer responded saying, well, you can just control paste. You can just create a macro. Anyway, people can do that. You can just control copy, control paste your message over and over and over, and you're not really participating when doing that. But I say you are, because listen, if my chat is being automated, I can click my little button there to start my automation going, sending out messages every 10 seconds or every minute, whatever it is, every 5 minutes. And then I can step away from my computer. I can go walk over and take a dump, go eat some food, drink whatever, come back 5 minutes later, come sit down. Oh, look at all these messages and whispers I have. Let me start responding to them now. Yes, you get that, but the timing for setting up your group, I think it's better to be there in person. And yes, people can set up a macro to do that, but that also is on them. They have to have the hardware. They have to have the software for that. It's not in the game itself. It allows the game to do that. And I think the ease of use for this add-on is the problem, right? Like, forming groups in Classic WoW is a little bit tougher, and there's something to go with that. Part of the game identity is the struggle to make things happen, and making things easier takes away from that experience. And some would say, well, it's just making things easier. Why would you be against that? I don't think it's a good idea. I don't think an LFG tool for Classic World of Warcraft is a good idea. Now, it's not as bad as it appears from its name. It's not an LFG. It's not a matchmaker that puts people in groups together. It is a tool used so that it'll visually interpret and show you people that are looking for groups or looking for more, not looking for groups. It's only looking for more. It only shows you groups that are forming. It does not show you people individually that are looking for a group. But I still think it's not within the spirit of Classic. I think it's too simple. It's too easy. And then, most importantly, is something that's happening next week. This is not something happening this week that what happened. It's not what's jamming, what did jam. We're talking about what's gonna jammin'. Classic WoW. It's coming out this week. It's going to be out. This is the last cast before Classic World of Warcraft releases. Are you guys excited about this? Are you excited as I am? I am going nuts. I cannot wait to play this game. I cannot wait for the minutia, for the grind, for the boring, fun, amazing gameplay that is Classic WoW. Maybe it's super hyped. Maybe my brain is completely wrong, and maybe everyone's going to hate it. But right now, everyone's super hyped about it, and oh my god, I'm excited. I'm excited for that coming out, and I couldn't not discuss that. I had to say World of Warcraft Classic is coming. It's coming. Oh, it's coming, baby. World of Warcraft Classic. Shamans are back. Totems are back. Woo! Woo! It's going to be good. It's going to be good. Claps all around, everybody. Claps all around. Let's go. Anyway, that's what's jamming this week, guys. It's a short what's jamming because we had a long what's news segment. We have a long interview, and we got to get to it. So if you're excited about CaviPlays, and you should be, because this guy's awesome, go follow him on twitch.tv/CaviPlays. He's got a beer of the week, or beer of the day, beer of the stream, really. Go check him out. Go watch that. And I'll be there, guys. So here we go. Welcome to Jamincast. It's me, Jamin. I'm happy to have another person on today. It's a Twitch streamer. It's CaviPlays. He's a retired competitive Call of Duty 1 and 2 player. He streams Apex Legends, Rainbow Six Siege, and he's got a beer of the day to tell his viewers about for anyone who wants to stop by his channel. How are you doing, Cavi?
I'm doing good, Jamin. How are you?
Good, man. Is Cavi the right way? So you're CaviPlays, but is Cavi or Cavi?
Cavi, you got it.
Cavi, all right. Well, good. First question for you is, what was the first game you ever played that left an impression on you?
The first game I ever played that left an impression on me. I got two came to mind right away.
Yeah, go ahead.
I guess I'll go two. I had a Game Boy growing up. That was my first sort of exposure to Nintendo or anything in that world. And I played the crap out of Paperboy. I loved Paperboy. I played it over and over and over again without winning. But I found, between the cars coming at you and the dogs always chasing you, it took me so long to win a game of Paperboy. I was so young though, but it sort of taught me that a game was there to win, and there was always a way to sort of find your way through that. So Paperboy to start with. My second one probably more well known. It's probably my favorite video game in my childhood. I had a Super Nintendo, and the Zelda Link to the Past.
Yeah, that amazing.
That game was fantastic. I remember I went to the used video game store and traded in 6 of my 8 games that I had just to get that game. But that game really opened up to me like what a video game could be, and not just the repetitive nature of jump on top of this guy, swing your sword, shoot your gun, whatever it was. A Link to the Past really showed me that there could be so much more to video games. Mm-hmm. And I remember first finding the Master Sword and in the forest, and thinking like the game was over, and then having my mind blown at like the rest of the game that followed that moment. So those two games were defining for me growing up.
For Paperboy, I remember the NES version. I didn't realize there was a Game Boy version.
Yeah, I think I had Paperboy, I had World Cup, and I had Tetris. But yeah, you were dealing with what, like a green screen, pretty much.
Yeah.
And I never had a Nintendo, so I never actually experienced the actual game. Mm-hmm. So I couldn't actually even tell you if it was the same game or not.
Gotcha. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. But Paperboy brings me. I was like, oh my god, I remember because I had the Nintendo one. I had the NES one.
Okay. Sure.
And just like it blew my mind. I was like, oh yeah, I remember that. It was. I think maybe I got to the second level like once every like 10 attempts, and then I was like, well, whatever. You just can't. It was like I think it was an arcade game. They must have just ported it.
Yeah, a lot of those games were, I think. Another one of those games that I liked was Ninja Turtles, and that was not the full arcade game, but it was based on the arcade game.
Yeah, some of those games. I mean, the Ninja Turtles on NES, which you didn't have, but it was ridiculously brutal. And then some of the Super Nintendo versions were incredible. Those were some of the best games I've ever played. The Super Nintendo Ninja Turtle games.
Sure. I'm not actually sure. Was it like, was it Turtles in Time? Was that
I
the
was
game on NES? I kind of forget.
Yeah, I think Turtles in Time was one of them. If not the, I'm not 100% on it. I know that one was definitely an arcade cabinet and also was on the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, we've got some barcades in my area where I can go and shamelessly play Ninja Turtles for hours on end.
Yeah, I didn't know that was a thing until like 2 or 3 weeks ago. There was a barcade. I went to one in Charlotte called Abari, and it was. I was like, is this heaven? Did we find heaven? They just serve alcohol and we can play video games all night. This is amazing.
Yeah, it's awesome. The ones by me, for the most part, you can, as long as you're buying a drink every now and then from the bar, no one's going to really harass you. They've got, a couple of premium titles that you have to pay for, but outside of that, you play to your heart's content, and that's always nice.
You don't happen to have, and this is like a specific game that I ran into in that bar. It's called Killer Queen. You don't have ever heard of this, have you?
Not that I can remember. No, honestly,
Gotcha.
I spent all my time on the Ninja Turtles and X-Men cabinets.
Yeah. Well, which is a good use of your time, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, this Killer Queen game, and I'll just briefly go over it. It's like it's kind of like Joust, if you remember the old Joust game, but it's like it came out in 2015. This one, and it's a 5-on-5 competitive. It's just insane. It's really a great game. I found one cabinet near me. I had to go to their website and find their cabinets, and I found one near me, and I haven't gone to find it yet, but it was in this bar in Charlotte. It was really fantastic. And anyway, not to go too long on something else, but check it out if you ever chance. You should definitely check that game out.
I'll have to. I'll have to. And from what I understand, Charlotte's got a pretty good scene up there as well. Yeah, I mean, you should have a few places now. I mean, these barcades are all the rage. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't actually live in Charlotte. I was there for a wedding. That's the only reason.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I think there's got to be some near me. I'll just got to find them.
Sure.
Something I want to ask you about that I think I didn't realize is that you're a retired competitive, and I introduced you this way, but as a competitive Call of Duty 1 and 2 player. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah. You tell me.
You d-
No, I'm kidding. I you know when I first got Call of Duty, I didn't really know what I was doing, and I was back in the day when dedicated servers were a thing, that people could rent and run, install their own rule sets too, and all that. But you get to know a couple people that you play with on the regular. You get into a clan, and then you find out that they have a competitive division, and then you realize that it's not actually truly competitive, and that where you need to go. You find a couple websites to try to get some competition, some more formalized competition. And then you get some people dedicated to the cause who can dedicate practice time and all of that. And then, off you go. So at that point, we started on two different sites, Team Warfare League, which was known as TWL for short, and then the Cyber Athlete Amateur League, which was known as CAL. And Cal was the more important of the two, I think, as in terms of setting trends and sort of. I mean, because you got to understand, this is way before esports exists as it does today.
What year are we talking about? I don't even know.
The first Call of Duty was released November 03.
Oh wow, okay. We're back in new millennium time. All right.
Yeah. So I mean, Cal preceded MLG. Cal was the amateur division. Then they had CPL, which was the Cyber Athlete Professional League, and that's what sort of turned into Major League Gaming when Major League Gaming spun up and sort of crushed all the other players in the game.
Mm-hmm.
As far as that goes, but yeah, they have open divisions for any sort of competitive based game in there. And so that's where we got our start. Cal Open, Cal O. That's where any team, whether you're playing Counter-Strike, or whether you're playing Call of Duty, or if you're doing solos in Quake, or Painkiller was a big one back then. You always started it open, and then based on your performance in those matches, obviously you get invited into sort of the higher division. So we made it to Cal I, which is the highest division of Cal Invite, and competed there for quite some time through Call of Duty 1 and 2.
Wow. That's yeah, that's an impressive because I think back on Call of Duty 1 and 2 and I'm like they had a pro scene back then? That's insane.
Yeah, and what's funny is that it wasn't necessarily Call of Duty didn't necessarily have the pro scene.
Mhm.
Other games did. Quake was big, StarCraft was big, Painkiller was the big one. In fact, the big tournament we went to, the CPL Summer Championships in 2005, I think. It was in Dallas, Texas, and that's where, if you're familiar with old school guys, that's where Fatality beat Vu 1v1 Painkiller and won like the single highest purse that any video gamer had ever won to date for a tournament. So that was pretty remarkable there, to just sort of be in the same area that was happening. And of course, when you talk to other people about this in the real world, like friends from school and all that, and everyone just looks at you like you're nuts.
Yeah.
But today it's look what happened with Fortnite just a
Yeah.
couple weeks ago in their World Cup. I mean, it's remarkable where it's come.
Booga really changed things overnight with that purse winning. And I guess it's not him necessarily because anybody whoever won would have gotten that, but the fact that he did, he gets all the credit. It's incredible.
Yep. Yep. So yeah, I mean, the whole competitive scene sort of introduced me to a whole different way to look at video gaming, because things become a lot more mechanical. You start breaking down mechanics in games and how far, like when you jump, how far are you going to be able to jump? We had grenade plays, so largely the game mode was 5v5 search and destroy, like a typical competitive game was that. And you either had like a minute and a half or 2 minutes per round, and the first you played 10 rounds, and the first to get 6 wins, won the game. But that being said, there was a finite. I mean, these maps were so small. There was a finite, and any Counter-Strike player can attest to this too. Any old Call of Duty player will attest to this. These maps are small. There's a finite amount of space to hide and to set up, and when you start figuring out where people are setting up, then you can start figuring out ways to sort of eliminate those positions methodically. And part of that was, I mean, it came down to, running up to a certain part of this brick wall, and part of the art on that wall had a char mark over here. Well, you're going to line up the colon on the timer on your screen to the brick to the right of the charred mark, and you're going to throw your grenade from there. And then that grenade will always do the same thing every time. It'll bounce off this wall, come off the ceiling, land in this spot, kill the guy that's there.
Yeah. Wow. And then, of course, the meta has to shift immediately because you can no longer use that spot. But do you have to use the grenade every time in that spot? Even if you don't know if someone's there, you just have to use it because otherwise they might actually use it. And then the rest of your play is, oh my God, just my whole
right.
brain.
Yeah. And that was part of like the round around tactics. You never knew. And you had one grenade, like each player on the team had one grenade, right? Mm-hmm. So it was always about either eliminating the person that's there or making the other team know that you have that spot covered in the future. Mm-hmm. And then betting, like if you chose not to throw a nade in that spot, then betting that they weren't going to be there waiting.
Yeah, like on round 2, they would know, oh, they throw grenades there, so they're not going to hide, and you're going to assume that they're not. Yeah, wow.
Exactly. A lot of gamesmanship went on that level, and that's part of what made it fun.
Yeah, I remember when Call of Duty came out, I was a big Medal of Honor fan, so I never played Call of Duty 1, and I was like, oh, this is not as good as Medal of Honor, that game. It's not. And then, of course, Medal of Honor doesn't exist anymore. I mean, I don't know if it exists. I've never heard of it recently, and Call of Duty's still going strong, so.
Yeah, Call of Duty and Battlefield, I think, are the two games of that sort of ilk that have persisted.
Mm-hmm. But I still get chills listening to Medal of Honor music. It's crazy.
Yeah, same thing with Call of Duty music, man. And I got to be honest too. Like, I don't think I've played a Call of Duty title. I think I dove into Modern Warfare 2 for a little bit, but I don't think I've played another game since Call of Duty 2.
Another Call of Duty game. Wow. Well, you've really missed a trend that apparently the world is on fire with.
Yeah, everyone started loving it. I fell out of love with it when they started introducing things like kill streaks and bonuses and all that. I was a huge fan of, just let me pick my gun, let us get out there and do the job.
Gotcha.
Once they started overcomplicating it, it sort of took the, uh, I don't know, it made me not want to play it anymore.
Yeah, it changed up the meta. And I've done the same thing with multiple games when they release an expansion or a new patch or something, and you're like, I don't want to play this anymore because everything I learned I have to relearn now, and I'm not excited about all these new little things that I don't care for.
Right, right, yeah, and from my perspective too, it's funny. Like over time, how sort of like what I want to get out of gaming kind of changed too. So, not only did I sort of cut Call of Duty out of my life, I cut like first-person shooters out after that too. So I went like super heavy into MMO land and um, other role-playing games like Dragon Age and Mass Effect and all that, and which kind of took me away from all of that scene, to be honest.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely will. It's switched up, and I mean, you're back in it now with Apex and Rainbow
Right,
Six Siege.
right, yeah. We man, I got into Siege there hot and heavy for a couple months. So it's been a while since I played,
Have
but
you? Okay.
Apex has certainly captured my attention for a while, and I think part of it is the simplicity of it. Kind of what I alluded to, give me a gun and give me a grenade and let me go. Obviously, it's more complicated than that. Apex, all games are, but as far as other games that in its genre and the battle royale genre that you can compare it to, it is one of the more simpler ones, with the exception of movement and how you get around the map. That's kind of where that game excels. But I enjoy that. I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah, I love playing. I think the robot's my favorite, just for the zip lines.
Yeah, Pathfinder. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't get to play Apex very much, but when I do, it's usually him because every time I use the healer girl, I just I don't ever heal anybody. So at least I know I feel like I'm
Okay.
doing something with the Pathfinder and attempting to. All right, I threw up a zip line. I don't know if it's useful, but it's up. I used my ability, so there you go.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great utility character. Probably the best character in the game, to be honest, because not only are you able to use that ability, but your teammates can also use that ability. And as I alluded to, like movement and positioning and Apex, they're so important.
Hmm.
And like I've been playing since that game released, and I'm still struggling with what to do sometimes. But that's how dynamic that game can be, though, and how fast paced it moves.
How have the season 2 updates been? I know those came out recently, within the last 2 weeks or so.
Yeah, I was a big fan of them. They made a few adjustments. Pathfinder actually being on the end of that one. They took some of the bigger characters who have bigger hitboxes and reduced the damage that they took by a certain percentage, a small percentage, and then they increased the amount the smaller characters take by the same
Oh
percentage,
wow.
but going the other way. Yeah, tried it because hitboxes were huge.
Hmm.
No one wanted to play Gibraltar. No one wanted to play Caustic. Um, I forget if they gave that same boost to Pathfinder or not. I always get that mixed up. But he was tough anyway because he had holes in his hitbox. But so they had to fix that. But yeah, they had to make this adjustment because other than that, you'd play Wraith or you play, I think Lifeline, and you were small. Like if you ever notice, like the next time you play, I know you just said you didn't play much, but play Pathfinder for a couple rounds and then switch to Lifeline, you are noticeably closer to the ground,
Gotcha.
um, which gives a much smaller area for people to hit. So they made those adjustments to sort of make it even, and now you see more of the thick boys, as they're colloquially called. Now you see more of those. Of course, the challenges don't hurt that either. So you got some daily and weekly challenges to work out, so you can get in and sort of maybe you have get a couple knockdowns as Gibraltar or something like that. So that helps with uh, seeing a little more choice being reflected there in the games.
Yeah, it's been. And so another thing about you, is that you're colorblind. And
Yeah.
Apex Legends, have they done a good job of keeping a colorblind mode? Do they help you out with that? And how does that change the not just Apex but all games? How does that affect your game?
Sure, it affects it a lot. And before to sort of, I back in Call of Duty, I actually subbed out. So there was like a bench on our competitive team, and I was always benched for two specific maps because of my color blindness.
Oh wow.
So it has huge impact. I am red green colorblind. So if you ever find yourself in colorblind settings, Deuterotopia is the one that I would choose because that's the one that's the setting that means it's for red green colorblind people. When I first started playing Apex, it was very difficult. The armors all looked the same to me. If I think like tier ones were white, tier twos were blue, tier threes were purple. But to me, actually, was it the other way around? See, now I forget because I've been playing with colorblind modes
Yeah.
for so long that I actually forget what the standard mode is. Anyway, it was very hard for me to determine like which armor was which. So if I saw something, obviously you want a tier 3 item because that gives you the most protection or gives you the best bonus on your gun or what have you. And if I saw one in a building sort of across a way, I would think to myself, I need to go get that. And so I would cross the map, you know, in a position where enemy teams could probably see me. We can expose our position or any of that, and get there, and only to find out it's a level 2, and I've already got that item. And why did I just do that?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's Apex hasn't done the best job. I will say they pushed 2 fixes. The first fix almost made it worse. Like they gave options, but the options were mislabeled. Their application for red green colorblindness was not done well. Matter of fact, a guy I play with, Bond Sinclair, Peace Demon, however you might know that name, he's colorblind too, and so he can actually attest to that. We shared in that struggle, and matter of fact, we chose completely different colorblind options based on what was better for us, but they were not the ones that were designed for our condition.
Right. So they were designed by someone who thought they knew what they were doing and didn't click on the right option or whatever it was.
Right. So eventually they came back and they fixed it, and so we're back on the right options where they should be now. But they still have a ways to go. Apex does, honestly. They use red dot sights. Since I'm red green, if I'm in the wooded area outside of artillery to the southeast of artillery there, if I'm in that wooded area with a red dot sight, good luck to my teammates, because not only will I have a hard time seeing the enemies in the bushes, I'll have a hard time seeing where my reticle's at just to aim and hit them. So it would be really nice if they turned their sights, and all of their sights, they're either red dots or outlines or whatever reticles they use there. If they gave an additional option to be able to change those colors, I would be so much happier with the state of their colorblind modes.
Yeah, I have a colorblind friend, and it's every time we end up going to any store or anything, and there's a bunch of stuff on the shelf. What does this look like? What color is this? What color is that? And it's like, I don't know if you've ever had people do this to you, but it's one of our like, wait, but how? And we're always like mesmerized by him whenever he's like, well, I can't see that, and we're like, but why?
And then the inevitable, like, well, what color is the grass? And you're like, oh my god, you got to deal with that.
Exactly.
It's not that we don't see colors; it's just some colors
they all look the same.
Yeah. Have you ever played Overwatch?
I have, yeah, a lot in season 1, and then I haven't played much since then.
Okay, so it's been a while.
Yeah.
Okay, a buddy of mine a couple of months ago gave me a key. I had never played it before, so I jumped in a few months ago and right away noticed. I was like, okay, I got to find a colorblind setting, and I went and I found them. And let me tell you something: Overwatch does colorblind levels to the nth degree. It's incredible.
Wow.
It doesn't just change UI elements, and it doesn't just change like the reticles for your guns. It changes the entire, like every texture on the map gets changed.
Wow.
The building colors, the road colors, the street light colors, the colors of the enemies and all the UI indicators, everything changes. And so I streamed that for a bit and got a lot of like, whoa, what am I looking at? Because the one that worked the best for me turned everything purple.
Wow.
And it was super bizarre, but let me tell you, I've never had an easier time seeing things, finding the enemy
Huh.
in front of me than I
Did
had playing Overwatch.
did you stream that at all when it was totally purple?
I did. I should have like a couple of clips or highlights like that. There was another one too that where everything's a little overly tan and got like yellow tints to it as well. So I kind of experimented with a few. But yeah, I should have a few highlights of those still up.
How did anyone in chat like mention like, hey, your game's messed up, or
Yeah,
there's
yep, I got a lot of that. Yeah, and that's actually like kind of right when I first started streaming because the first person that brought it up was actually also my first tipper on stream, which was nice. But I think she pitied me because what she was looking at was an absolute train wreck to her eyes, but it was heaven for mine.
yeah, going back and seeing old streams from, I'm like, oh, okay, all right, let's we've come quite a bit distance. I still got a lot to do, but yeah, it's that's always fun. So when did you start streaming?
I started streaming the middle of April this year, so it's a very much a new thing for me still,
Mm-hmm.
but it's been a lot of fun. I came from most recently I've played a lot of Destiny 2, and I found I stayed with the game a little longer than I might have because I'm not big into looters or looter shooters,
Mm-hmm.
but I stayed in that game longer than I would have because of the people, the community that I'm very lucky to be a part of. The clan, they're called Inevitable Gaming. Shout out to you guys. They keep pretty much a full clan, 100 members, as much as they can. And I would say a good group of 60 to 70 are pretty consistent. So um, you get online at night, you PvP with your friends, and you repeat that. And I wanted a way to sort of chronicle what I was doing because I had a great time. I was having a great time,
Mm-hmm.
and so I started streaming as a way of just being able to keep recordings, but also make them available for anyone who we were also playing with. And then it sort of exploded and turned into something completely different. But
Yeah,
I suppose that's the way it goes
yeah,
sometimes.
that's life, man. It doesn't go exactly as planned, and you don't have a
Right.
clue what's going to happen. It's been yeah, that's awesome. So when did you stop playing? Well, I'm more interested in you mentioned MMOs earlier. What MMOs are we talking about?
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. I was, and I can't say that I'm an MMO fan.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm a huge Star Wars fan. So I played Star Wars Galaxies like I was. Uh, it was probably the close to being an addict that
Yeah.
that you can get,
Yeah.
which MMOs can do to a person. But Star Wars Galaxies was. Are you familiar? Had you ever played?
I wish I had played that game because I absolutely love Star Wars, but I never got to play that. I think I was maybe playing World of Warcraft for the first time in like 2006 or so.
Sure. Yeah, and I think WoW came out. Galaxies came out the summer of '03, and then WoW came out in '04, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So they came out in very similar time frames, and then WoW just sort of ran away with it. Yeah, because a lot of the people who loved MMOs loved the way WoW did it,
Mm-hmm.
whereas people like me just sort of stuck with Star Wars because Galaxies was the type of game, at least it started off, where it built itself as a Star Wars world that you can be part of,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a time between I think it was a time between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. So there weren't supposed to be any Jedi in the universe, and you had to pick
Oh.
a profession that wasn't Jedi, and that it absolutely blew my mind. And so I was like, well, I'm going to go be a bounty hunter because my favorite character is Boba Fett. I know it's a lot of people's favorite character, but I went through their universe as a bounty hunter, and I had a blast, and um, made a lot of friends in that game too. But that's that's primarily where I went after I kind of left the Call of Duty scene.
Wow, yeah. I think that's why I didn't play that game. I think I was looking at WoW and I was looking at Galaxies and I was like, "Well, can I be a Jedi?" And it was like, "No." And I was like, "All right,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go play some WoW." And then
Yep.
even though I love Star Wars, it was like literally like, "Oh, well, I can be the Warcraft things. I can do that." So it was just kind of a choice between those two. And also, I think I had friends. I had friends actually playing WoW, so there was no real other. That was easy. And that made it even easier.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that'll do it. And I think over time I found that I will like I prefer playing my games with other people. So
Hmm.
that
Yeah.
that makes perfect sense. But yeah, I was never into any sort of fantasy anything. Like I enjoyed Zelda. Like I have my niches that I stick to. I liked my Zelda games. I loved Star Wars. Now I'm a fan of Dragon Age, but really to drag me outside of that and into a different fantasy universe,
Hmm.
I'm very reluctant to go outside of what I like.
I think I played Dragon Age Inquisition was like the only one I really deep dove into.
Oh, okay. Well, that's a great one. So
Yeah.
that's the third in the series too. So I mean, you can go back and
Yeah.
make up for that if
I
you want.
think I fought it. I fought dragons, and then I was like, "All right, I killed a dragon. That was pretty cool." And then I kind of moved on.
Yeah, I mean, it's a Bioware game, right?
Hmm.
So they do a great job at storytelling, and there's a lot of political intrigue um, that goes into some of those games.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people didn't like that second one because it sort of hyper like the first one was this grand scale, save the country, save your continent from this invasion. Then the second one focused on like a single city and the events going on within a single city, and so a lot of people didn't like that because they went from this grand scale down to something so micro in comparison. But Inquisition definitely came back and did the more larger scale conflict
Yeah.
that people wanted to see.
I think my least favorite thing about that game is the loading screens, and every time having to go to a new area and being in another loading screen. And I don't think I was on an SSD at the time, so I didn't have the
Yeah.
option to like put it on a quick load. It was just like and it was just like, all right, now go to this area, and you're like, all right, I'm here, kill whatever, or do one objective. Okay, now go back to your castle, and I'm like, oh god, like now I have to
Yeah.
load
I'm
back
pretty
in.
sure you had to have $500 to have an SSD when that came out, I think.
Okay,
So,
yeah. That was the
yeah.
only problem with that game was just loading and like, all right, return to your castle, go back to this area, now return to your castle. I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to sit here for 3 minutes while this game loads another option.
Right, right. Yeah. I don't know. The universe they built, I went so far as, started to read books. The lead writer for that actually came out with a few books that sort of filled in some gaps in the stories, and those are actually pretty good too. I think his name's David Gader, Gaider. Those books were pretty good too.
What's your favorite game to stream? So is Apex Legends? That's the game? Is there anything like that you're looking forward to, or is that?
Right now, it is my game of choice to stream. I played some Siege. I think what the thing that happened with Siege is that I wasn't willing to really play that by myself. Sensing a common theme here, I'm going to go where
Where the
as
friends
you
are?
said,
Yeah.
go where your friends are. Unless I'm really don't want to play that game. I liked Siege, but people I played with sort of moved on to other things, which is fine. Um, the new Call of Duty Modern Warfare is coming out, and I am seriously considering that because
Hmm.
I believe it's being made by the studio that did the first two games that I enjoyed so much. And
To be the first Call
I
of
don't,
Duty you're returning to? Oh my gosh. Does
yeah,
Call
yeah.
of Duty
So
know?
yeah, right. So I'm going to do all this talk, but what they don't tell you is that 10 years away from first person shooters games really does a number to your reaction times. Yeah, if you ran into me now playing it, you'd never know. But in some ways that's okay too, because my priorities for playing a game now are so much different than they were when I was playing back then.
Hmm.
But yeah, I've got a couple friends that are interested in Call of Duty, so we might have to check that out. Honestly, the gameplay videos look really, really good, so I'm looking forward to that. Outside of that, yeah, I am actually looking for something else to sort of sink my teeth into.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are doing the Dead by Daylight. I'm not a horror guy,
Yeah.
and so I don't know if I would enjoy that.
You
But I got a lot of people urging me to play.
look into the remake of Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past. See if you can get a stream and capture card and stuff, and stream that. You can replay that whole game.
That would be amazing.
Yeah,
That's something.
they've redone it all, right? I think that they're redoing it, or just get an emulator and play it play the old version.
Yeah, I was going to say I'd have to get a console.
Yeah,
That's one thing I've owned a couple in my life, but I've never owned one for more than 2 years at a time before I move it on. I always
gotcha.
come back to the PC.
Same.
I built my first computer in '03 basically for Call of Duty.
Wow. I have
Yeah.
yet to build a
So,
computer. I'm inept when it comes to understanding what's inside my computer.
oh really?
Yeah, that's why I just used Bing to search for how to fix Windows. I think I typed into Bing by accident. I meant to use Google, but whatever.
I don't know if Google would have helped with that one. I mean,
Yeah.
how to fix Windows? That's
How to fix Windows. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
that's funny.
Who are your streaming influencers? Who do you like to watch, or who do you like to emulate? What made you see streaming? I mean, you said you started just to record yourself, but is it now you have to be like seeing people and be like, oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah, so I'm seeing a lot more people now as I sort of feel my way through. You have to understand, there were a lot of jokes when I first started streaming because people would start tossing around these memes and these emotes, and I had no idea what any of it meant. And still, to some of it, I'm just like, I don't know what that. I don't have any context for that whatsoever. So I actually have, coming into this, I had no idea who did what the names were. The first person I went and found was, and I brought him up earlier, was Fatality, who now is kind of looked at as like the old school guy, but I guess that's who I am too now. So, but now you peruse Twitter, you peruse Twitch, and you're looking for people to emulate, and I look forward more to the networking opportunity than anything.
Yeah.
But I think a couple of the people that I enjoy watching, since I'm really heavy into Apex, I really like watching Vis, TSM Vis. He's a stream pro. He's really good at it. And I just like watching him because he's good at the game that I play the most. So I like that. He has good energy too. He doesn't really hold back, which I think I needed to see, because when I first put that camera up, I think I was unintentionally sort of muting myself to some extent.
Yeah.
Holding back to some extent, until you realize that, like, people are there to see you and your emotions and how you're feeling about what's happening on the screen. And so watching Vis sort of helped me with that.
Yeah, my big takeaway, my big thing that got me, and I mean, I'm not that big of a streamer or anything, but the thing that I think about, the way I approach it right now, is like, I'm a street performer, and like I have to just keep doing stuff, and hopefully someone stops and checks it out.
Right.
I feel like that's the best analogy I can give to people who don't understand what streaming is. I'm like, listen, you're entertaining people. Like, yes, you're playing a game, but unless you're the best of the best of the best at it, you have to do something else to get people to actually care.
Right. And so on that note, that's where my shticks come from. So I used to be very upfront about me being colorblind. So that's been discussed on the stream. I do a beer of the night, which I think you touched on in
the intro. I was about to ask you about that, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I do a beer of the night. I'm, if you couldn't tell by this conversation, I'm older than your standard streamer you'd run into. I'm 34, but I enjoy craft beer. I enjoy good craft beer.
Yeah.
And so I thought, if I'm going to try and connect people, obviously the common interest here is video games, but what else could I bring that's sort of easily accessible to most people? And I say that now, and two of the guys I regularly play with aren't even 21. And so I say easily accessible, but is it really easily accessible? But yeah, so I do a beer of the night. I love trying new things. I have an app that's sort of it's called Untapped. It's like Foursquare, but for beers, not locations. So you can sort of like check into what you've had, and I like finding new things
Yeah.
to try, and so I use that to sort of keep track of what I've had, what I haven't. Um, it's great. A ton of places around me, they'll let you create your own 6 pack or something, and so I'm able to sort of turn that into having something different on my stream every night. And so I'm just sort of experimenting with where to take that outside of just having a feature. And I've got a couple of ideas I'm throwing around, but nothing I'm ready to commit to quite yet.
Yeah, I have a friend who drives trucks, and he will send us my group. He'll send us pictures and snaps and stuff. Hey, I'm in this new town, and this is a beer from there from this brewery and such. And yeah, I can't. I'm definitely sending him your way because he loves his beer, and I'm more like just give me some whiskey. But
Sure, and there's nothing wrong with whiskey.
yeah,
Nothing
nothing
at all.
wrong. Yeah,
What's
no.
your whiskey of choice?
Um, if I could just drink whiskey, it'd probably be a Maker's Mark. If I could just buy some whiskey, if I have to
Yep.
pay for it, because it's not,
Yep.
it's a little bit higher end, but it's not like super high end whiskey. It's just right there in the middle. It's good.
I hear you. I hear you. It's a good standard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, God, it's in real life. My job takes me to different cities, and I do the same thing that your friend does.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go to places like Asheville, North Carolina, or Portland, Maine. Both have incredible beer scenes, and so you get done with work. I mean, the whole office closes at 5. It gives you a few hours before you have to. I don't want to spend all my time sitting at a hotel, right? So
Yeah,
I'm off gallivanting around trying to find the beer spot I don't know about yet. So
yeah. Do you have a favorite beer that if you have to like if you can't find a new beer to find for the night, what's your go to?
oh, that's a great question. And that's also challenging because I want to pick something that is accessible to most people.
No, what's for
Where
you? What do you enjoy?
I well, I love IPAs and I love stouts. So if I had to just go
Mm-hmm.
with something that I could find regularly on the shelf in my, not just in my city, but in my general region, Founders out of Michigan makes a very good breakfast stout that I would suggest to anyone who, and if you like stouts and haven't tried a breakfast stout, I'd be shocked. But that is a good standard to pick up off the shelf if you like stouts. The Founders Breakfast Stout. And as far as IPAs go, those are more difficult to do because the best IPAs are always the come from the breweries that can experiment, and the ones that are mass produced aren't really experimental with their IPAs. So that one's a little harder to for me to think of.
So this is me realizing how little I know about beer because I was trying to formulate a question in my head and I realized I have no idea which country Guinness is from. Is it Ireland?
Yes,
It is
yeah,
Ireland. Okay,
yeah.
there. Okay, good. I was right. I just was like, man, if I say it's Irish and then someone's like, oh, what the hell? This guy has no idea what he's talking about. Yeah. All right. I want to travel to Ireland and have a Guinness straight from Ireland. That sounds amazing because every time I hear about it, I hear that's like
I've heard they're different. Yeah,
yeah.
I've heard they're different there. That
I
they,
heard the bottling
get-
process and the shipping process and all that
yep,
just completely changes it.
yep, and they have to, and they try to replicate as much as they can. I don't know if you've had like Guinness from a can, but
Hmm.
they have that. They have like a device in the can that basically carbonates it as you open the can.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so at least from the standpoint of having one from a can, you're very likely to have like the exact same beer every time you try it, which can't be said for you know Heinekens or Stellas or Bud Lights or Miller Lights or any of that. Those are very volatile. They have a shelf life to them
Hmm.
that Guinness doesn't necessarily have because of that little device in there. So
Yeah, Guinness and then Yingling. So as basic as I can be, those are the two that I'll step if I have to have a beer. I'll have one of those.
Yingling's good. Yeah, Yingling's good. And I guess you know what I like. For me too, it's also a seasonal thing. So like right now in the summer, Sam Adams is a real big accessible beer. Everyone knows who Sam Adams is.
Mm-hmm.
Their summer ales are really, really good. And so if it was the summer and I was looking for something to have out on a porch or on a deck or outside, the summer ale from Sam Adams is where I would go.
Awesome, man. Are you playing Classic WoW? I feel like I have to ask this.
Yeah, you do have to ask me.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm not playing it.
Okay.
It's funny. I think I played WoW for a grand total of 20 minutes. I had an old friend of mine, actually from Star Wars Galaxies. He played a lot of WoW too, and he actually made me an account and he paid for it for a month.
Oh my God!
To play.
And this guy really wanted you to play.
Yeah, I think I played for it. Like I said, I was probably on there for like 20 minutes to an hour, and it was like, that's okay.
Did you ever play Warcraft 3 or any of the RTSs?
No, I was never into those.
Yeah.
The RTSs I was really big into were, well, Age of Empires, obviously, and then Command and Conquer.
Yep.
Both Red Alert 2 and Generals, I really liked.
Yeah, I just played Generals on stream like a month ago.
Did you really?
Yeah, I bought it and I downloaded a multiplayer update too. So if you ever want to play, you have to go through and edit the files. There's like a person online that has like a thing you can install that lets you play multiplayer still because all their servers are down.
Right.
But yeah, I played that game on stream because that's honestly one of my favorite games of all time. Growing up, just because it was the one I got my dad to play with me, so it was just
that's cool.
That connection was like, yeah, we're gonna play. But going back and playing it, it's pretty rough. That game is pretty racist against anyone from the Middle East. It's
Yeah. I'm not laughing at the racism.
No, it's hilarious.
I was very taken aback by that comment. That's
yeah. I mean, like the main worker for the GLE, the Global Liberation GLA, the Global Liberation Army is like, I need shoes, and you're like, okay, and one of their units is a suicide bomber. They have Scud missiles. Like it's like everything that George Bush thought was actually in Iraq is actually in the GLA.
Right.
Pretty sure he just played that game for his intel.
Yeah, Generals was so much fun though. But Command and Conquer, like they had a knack for doing really silly things in their games. Like Red Alert 2, they used They used, I think her name was Tanya in the game. Like she was basically like softcore porn actress. But hey, here she is. She's your best fighter. Go out and shoot some.
Yeah, I remember playing Red Alert 2, and then we got Generals, and then Generals 0 Hour came out, and it was even more crazy because they added a bunch of superpowers for the Generals.
Right.
Man, just a good game. And funnily enough about that game is, I don't know if it was Generals or 0 Hour, but Dustin Browder was the lead designer on that game. On one of them. I think it might have been 0 Hour, might have been both. I'm not sure. But he's also the guy who's the lead designer for Heroes of the Storm.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So when I played Heroes of the Storm, and he also did StarCraft 2 Wings of Liberty, he was the lead designer for that. It's just
around.
Yeah, it's really impressive for me because I played all of those games without having a clue who Dustin Browder was, and then at some point I looked back and I was like, "Oh crap! Like this guy like influenced my whole life."
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that's nutty. It's funny. Heroes of the Storm. I hear a lot about that now. So obviously, I know you've played it because I've listened to a few of your interviews now, and Gilderic, he played it. He really played it, from what I understand.
Yeah, I played it. We both played it quite a bit.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm hearing a lot more about that game now than I ever have before.
Wow. Well,
just through you guys.
Well, yeah. There you go. It's in its death throes, I would say. It's not necessarily. They could turn it around and do something with it, but they've basically taken their development team and turned it into it feels like they've put like maybe 10% of the people that were working on it now, and so it's
isn't that sad? Isn't that sad to know that that's what's happening to one of your favorite games?
Yeah, I mean their whole pro league got dismantled in overnight. It was literally like everyone's at BlizzCon going, "Hey, this is great. Can't wait till next year. It's gonna be fantastic." And then 2 weeks after BlizzCon, they were like, "Hey, by the way, no more HGC. It's gone. Nobody's being paid for that next year." And people had just okay, so for anyone who doesn't know, people had qualified to be part of the HGC. There was an open division, and you didn't get paid at all to be in the open division. It was very, very competitive, and you had to fight your way through the open division all year to get your chance to fight the people in the Crucible, which were the professional teams. The worst professional team, there was like a certain number per region. The worst professional team had to fight somebody in the Crucible. And it was the best open division team. And they would, if they won, the open division team won the series, they would switch and they would get your spot, and the professional team would be kicked out. So it was a way to keep it very competitive, keep a lot of, it was rough. If you're the worst team in the worst two teams in the professional world, you had to fight to stay in. And if you're the best in the open division, you got to fight to get a salary, because the players were salaried. They got $20,000 a year. To just as soon as you were a professional, you got $20,000 a year, and there was 5 people per team. There was like 8 teams per region. There was like 5 different regions. So again, that's a ton of money. It was a lot, and you can obviously see from Blizzard's side, from their business perspective, like, oh, we can't afford this. It's not doing that well. It wasn't doing that well. People weren't. I mean, not enough people were watching it, and with the amount of money they had to put into it to afford to pay people, basically minimum wage salaries for playing their game.
Yeah, that's incredible though.
And
especially like, God, man, that's crazy.
Yeah. So
like,
these people completed the Crucible. They got their ticket. They were told, "You're going to be in the next HGC. Congratulations!" And everyone cheered, and they were hooting and hollering. They were hugging each other. And then like a couple weeks later, they said, "Oh, by the way, HGC is no longer a thing. Sorry for your plans for the year. You're out of it." So it was really rough. And not only that, the camera crews, all the people. I mean, I'm sure they just can go find a camera crew somewhere else. But all the people involved in it, the commentators, the content creators, it was just a big like fu to all of them.
Yeah, you hate to see it.
Mm-hmm. So Heroes of the Storm still around. They just released their newest hero. And it's still a game. If you ever want to play it, it's fun to play, but it's that sour taste in your mouth from that terrible PR they did with that terrible move.
Sure, absolutely.
Which seemed like a move to appease the shareholders more than to take care of their people that love their game.
Right. Yeah, that's too bad. That's too bad.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I was gonna compare that to Star Wars Galaxies shutting down, but I mean, they didn't screw people over like that. Like nothing's gonna hold a candle to that. But I don't know, like the feeling of when Galaxies went down, I don't know, that was kind of bittersweet. You spend so much time on something, and to watch it go down, that game's end of life. It had almost been around for nearly 10 years, and graphically it was just way behind. And for the devs to update anything was such a challenge, because they were working with such an old code base. I mean, it was, and as users, like, you knew that. It was kind of a train wreck there at the end. But
there must be private servers for them somewhere.
Yeah, so you can SWG EMU for emulator. You can go do that. I do that every now and then, but the problem is the private servers don't have populations to sort of support the game the way it used to be supported from a player economy point of view. The crafting system in Galaxies it still holds as one of the better crafting systems a game has ever sort of put out there. So players were super reliant on other players, well and truly, and that's part of what made that game special. But so it's good though. They can make some adjustments, right? They can spawn this and that on purpose, or to jumpstart some things. They can accelerate XP progression, stuff like that, just standard stuff. But at the end of the day, it's not the same game, and part of that is because all the people that were there aren't anymore.
Yeah, and especially the just having a population is so important. And then also you don't know if the stuff's gonna be around, if the guy decides to delete the server, or if the admin decides to give himself $1 million and he can whatever. Well, thanks, man. This has been really fun, and this is it's always so much fun to talk about video games. Just talking to anybody about video games is like, yes, let's go, let's talk about it.
Yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, I literally I perk up. Someone's wearing a video game T-shirt. I perk. Oh, hey, what's up, buddy? How are you? And I don't know. Then usually they look down at their shirt like, what shirt am I wearing? And
you knew more about it than they did.
Yeah, it's always fantastic. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I don't know if you have any.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm honored to be invited.
Yeah. 100%, man. You do a great job. Anyone who is listening to the podcast, go over to twitch.tv/CaviPlays and follow him because he's a fantastic streamer. Really, it's professional. It looks good. You got a really good thing going for you, and I think you're going to really take off.
That's very kind. Thank you very much.
That's the show, everyone. Thanks for listening. If you want more content from me besides just this podcast, check out my Twitch stream where I create the podcast live each week and play games. Follow me there to be in the know and just be entertained. You can find me at twitch.tv/Jamin. Also, I'm on Twitter. I'm always updating when I'm going live on Twitch, as well as informing my followers what is going on for Jamincast. So follow me there at Jamin the Shaman, and again, you'll be in the know. Thanks so much. Have a great night, have a great life, and have a great morning.